Hey guys, welcome to our online APUSH class. If you were not able to make the Zoom that we had today, I'm going to recover most of the major stuff that we talked about in terms of how to approach the AP test. I did want to mention we are 11 days from the test. What? And I know this COVID thing has been crazy, but you guys have been working all year for this. And I feel like this virus situation has taken so much from us as much as possible. I really don't want this to be one of those things. And I actually think about AP tests a lot like league finals or CIF. I don't know if you guys know this, but I did used to coach and I love those events. I think it's really an opportunity for you to perform after all the work that you've done. And so I'm actually really excited about helping you try to be as confident as possible, even in the middle of all of this change. Also, I know things are crazy and I want to be flexible and understanding about that. And also, there's a little piece of me that is kind of with Jogzi, if Teddy Roosevelt can get shot and still give a speech, we can take a test from home. We can do it, you know? I want to equip you with some things that can help you actually be able to do this well next Friday. So one thing I did want to mention is just like CIF or league finals, you don't do your biggest workout the day before, right? If you're in a sport, that's not a thing. You kind of let your body rest because it's really going to work for you tomorrow. And the reality is that your brain is also an organ. It's not just this thing that you train. Our general approach on the test is that the night before, late the night before, is not really the time that you should be studying. We should be doing that now over the next week or two. And then on Friday, if you want to study during the day, on Thursday, the day before the test, if you want to study during the day, that's awesome. But you should be done by 8, and then you should just relax and let your brain rest before you get up in the morning to take the test. And then I did want to acknowledge just, yes, that the change feels really stressful and a 1 question DBQ feels pretty high stakes. But we are going to focus on what we can control. And one of those things is the process of the test. I want to make that feel really comfortable for you. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to work on practicing submitting the test because there are a bunch of different options for you for how you want to do that. So I'm going to explain those. And then today is Monday or tomorrow, Tuesday, you're going to play with the MyApp demo and narrow down for sure how you want to submit, whether you want to handwrite or type or how you're going to do that. So that on Wednesday, when we do a practice writing with the new rubric, you can actually practice as a dry run doing what you will do next Friday, right? So that will get you a little bit more comfortable with what you're going to be doing. And then the other thing that we're going to work on next week is making sure your testing space is all prepped. And the AP board actually has a checklist that they released for that. I'm not going to talk about that today. You should have that printed already, but we're going to deal with that next week. Okay, so let's talk about submitting. The most important thing about submitting is that you submit before the timer runs out, because if the timer runs out and you did all that work, but you don't submit it, you get a 0. And once you hit submit, that's it. So if you submit before you attach all of the documents, say you just attach one and hit submit, all that other work doesn't count. So that's why the practice is really important, especially if you're planning to take pictures and submit. You need to get used to attaching all of your pictures that are pre-labeled in order and then submitting them. The other thing I want to note is that you are not allowed to request a makeup test if you just don't submit on time. If you don't leave yourself enough time and you can't submit, that's not an option for makeup testing. You can request one for anything else, your internet goes down and you get kicked off or whatever, those kinds of things that you can't control. But the time is not one of those things. So you want to make sure that you don't just run the timer down or take a risk on that. You want to go ahead and submit at the 5-minute mark. And then practice, as I mentioned, is the best thing you can do for this. That is the link, the place that you're going to go when this is done. If you want to take a picture of that, you can. I also sent it out on Remind. But you're going to go to that link to actually practice doing the submitting. Okay, I already mentioned that you're going to do this today or tomorrow before you do your dry run on Wednesday. Note, it does ask for your APID in order to take the test. You don't need that though. So when you put it in, you're just going to put in all caps practice, and that's going to let you in to do the demo. Okay, how to submit options for your practice today or tomorrow. These are the basic options. So option 1 is on your PC or a laptop computer, you can type. You're going to do this in 2 windows. So you have one window with the test and then one window with like a Google Doc. So you'll be side by side typing and looking at the documents, and then you can copy and paste that over. And when I tried the demo, that was actually the easiest option for me. It's like super fast for the submission. Okay, your option 2 is if you're going to use your laptop computer for the documents and then handwrite your essay, and you would have to submit pictures. Now, I found for me, the interface between my phone and my computer was truly terrible, like trying to find the photos. So if that's what you're doing, you really need to get that down. Like what system you're going to use for that. You need to have practiced that like multiple times and make sure that you have a system that is efficient in order to make that work. So that is the second option. The third option, if you really want to write, would be to get a big iPad type device to do this on. And I actually think that could be the best option because an iPad would be big enough that you can scroll through the documents easily, but it would still have a photo capacity. So you could take the picture and then submit it through the iPad as opposed to having to attach your phone to the computer, which could be more complicated. You can technically also take the test on your phone, but we were advised by the AP dude, it was like the only thing he said was don't do it on your phone because it will be frustrating. That's basically like if you don't have another device, use a phone. So I would highly not recommend that. I personally would recommend typing in the Google Doc and copying and pasting. However, if you really want to do those other ones, then you should try that out and figure out what works for you. I have more detail on this. I'm not going to explain all of it because it's just going to take a while. If you want to look through this, like take a picture of it and look through it later or whatever to help you, you totally can. Okay, our goal or plan, I want to walk through the DBQ rubric. So you should have watched the JOXZ video on the updated DBQ rubric before you're watching this. If you haven't yet, pause this and go and do that Edpuzzle first. However, I'm going to explain our goal based on the new rubric. So per our training, you're going to do the context in the introduction, just like you always have, right? Writing about the time period or the relevant prior information that connects to the prompt. So you're doing that in the intro for a point. Thesis at the end of your intro for a point. For 4 points, you are going to use and FIA 3 documents. So actually you get these 4 points if you use and FIA 2. We're going to do 3 to give you a buffer because it is entirely possible that you will misinterpret a document. I totally misinterpreted a document on my DBQ that I took 20 years ago. We got a join or die cartoon and it just totally I forgot that it was about the French Indian War. Right. So you want to make yourself a buffer in case you make a mistake. The AP board will not hold your mistake against you. They will still give you credit for the 2. If you only do 2 and make a mistake, you've dropped your number of points in half. Okay, so this is what we're doing. 3 docs FIA. And then 2 pieces of outside evidence. You get a point for each of those. Okay, so this is our goal. Context, thesis, FIA 3, 2 pieces of outside evidence. If you have extra time, you're going to add 1 more document. You get another point for using a 4th document. And you're going to add the complexity point, which is the counter argument and or connecting to another time period. That's the complexity. So there's a total of 10 points on the rubric. If you have been getting all the points on the rubric before, you could totally aim to do those last 2. If you haven't been getting the complexity point, I would honestly not worry about that too much. Like historically, only 10% of students have gotten the complexity point. It's kind of the unicorn point. So those top 8, that is the goal. Okay, so that's how we're doing our plan of attack based on the new rubric. This sheet is the DBQ writing guide that I gave you. And I'm actually recommending that while you take the test, you have this out in front of you. And you'll notice that I added little boxes next to the major tasks. I am very tactile when I do things, and I actually want to go back and like check those things off and make sure that I'm doing them before I move on to the next section. So if you're like me and you want to do that, that's what I did. So, because I actually kind of practiced this like as a student. So I added those boxes, and then checking them off helps me feel like, okay, I've done the task, I'm ready for the next thing. What you should have in front of you at this point is your DBQ writing guide. So this little page, you can go ahead and add those boxes if you like. The timeline reference sheet, the study guide that we have done. If you want to print that and like staple it all together, that would be one other resource that you can keep in front of you. This test, remember, is open note, but it is a very fast deadline. And so you are not going to have time to do a lot of research or looking. Like, I would not plan for that at all, and you should not be doing any internet searches. However, if you want to do a quick reference on your study guide in that time period to look for outside information, maybe like terms that you know that you want to add in, I think that would be okay. And then your blank sheet of paper that you're going to use for your chart prep that we're doing. Okay, and then again, if you want to add these little boxes, you can go ahead and pause the screen, make sure you have everything, and you've added those little boxes before you move on to the next screen. Okay, so what we're going to do next is use this guide to do a practice DBQ prep, and you're actually going to submit this to the assignment. So you're going to take a picture of what you do on your prep page and then submit that in. Regardless of if you are typing or writing your DBQ, you're going to do your prep on paper, okay? Because prepping in a Google document that's weird, and you're going to have to delete all that prep before you submit it. Like, you don't want to mess with that. So I would highly recommend just doing it on a blank sheet of paper like we've done all year. So what you're going to do is you're going to start at the top of this DBQ writing guide. So hopefully you can see this little arrow where it says first 5 minutes only, and then the next 5 to 10 minutes. So this is the prep part. You'll notice 5 plus 5 to 10 means you're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes on prep, 15 minutes max. And then you're going to move on to 30 minutes of writing. If you finish your prep in 10 minutes, you'll be able to write for 35 minutes. But total, notice this is a 45-minute task, right? 10 minutes of writing, 30 of prep, 35 minutes of writing, or 15 minutes of prep and 30 minutes of writing. You want to make sure that you have enough time to write, but it's also wise to know where you're going, right? So I would recommend, though, after 15 minutes, you're going to move on. What we're going to do today is not the actual writing, so none of this, the write down, you're going to do that on Wednesday. What we're going to do today is a practice prep using the writing guide and the timeline to help you out. Okay, so this would be kind of like a little mini run through on Wednesday. You're going to do a full dry run, actually write everything and submit everything. Okay, so as I mentioned, what you're going to submit is a picture of the page that you're using for your prep. So what you're going to do is go ahead and make your chart and brainstorm based on the DBQ that we attached. So the prompt is this is the one about the relative influence of factors that contributed to tension between 1830 and 1860. You should either have that printed or have it available on your phone. And you're going to use that DBQ question to make a chart. Then you're going to put, you're going to make that chart, and then you're going to brainstorm. So this is where we're walking through this, right? You identify all parts of the prompt. You make the chart. This reference guide can help you make that chart. So you can look at the prompt criteria or the prompt statement and figure out which prompt type is it, and then you can use these to help you. Now, to be completely honest with you, for DBQs, there are not specific prompt types. Those are for LEQs, but typically DBQs still only use those prompt types plus these to what extent kind of questions. What I'm saying is they could ask you something completely different that doesn't use any of this language, but it is unlikely. Okay, so we're going to, for the most part, presume that they're going to choose one of these. If they don't, that's fine, and you're going to do the best you can on what they ask. Okay, but most likely it will have one of these, some of this language in it. Okay, so you're going to look for the language that's in there. In this case, the prompt has a relative influence. Again, with the tactile, I actually really like to highlight. So I just highlight, this is the prompt type. That means I need to rank the factors, right? Most significant to least significant. So I'm going to take a look at that prompt. I go, oh, it's relative influence. This is what I need to do. I make my chart, and then I'm going to brainstorm anything that I can think of. So for this prompt, right, you're looking at factors that contributed to tension between 1830 and 1860. Okay, so you're going to write down anything you can think of and put that into the chart. Okay, then you're going to go to the documents. Also, if you would like to use this, when we did this on Zoom, I actually walked everyone through this. So if you would like to pause the Edpuzzle and actually do this as we go, you're welcome to do that. That might actually be the easiest, because then you have me walking it through with you. But otherwise, once we're finished with this, you can take that DBQ writing guide and just do it with the prompt and the timeline as a reference. Okay, so you're going to make the chart, as we mentioned, do your brainstorm. Once you have done that, then you're going to add 3 documents into your chart with a bullet for the FIA. Okay, so you're going to read through all 5, decide which 3 do I want to use. You add them into the chart and do a little bullet. Okay, am I doing author's point of view? Am I doing, right? Which element of the FIA are you doing? Do a little bullet for that. Okay, if you want to pause and do this right now, you can. Okay, then you're going to star the 2 pieces of outside evidence that you want to use. So these are 2 things that did not come up in the documents that you are going to treat almost like your own document, right? You're going to talk about that thing for about 3 sentences at least, explain how it ties into your argument. Okay, then when you have finished this, you're going to write your thesis. And very quickly, you're going to bullet point, what are you going to put in the introduction for context? Okay, so this is an entire prep. As I mentioned, this should take you 15 minutes max. So you can use this DBQ writing guide to help you walk through that. Or as I mentioned, you can pause and back up and let me walk you through everything. And then you're going to submit the picture of your work to the assignment. And that's it. Okay, also, if you guys have questions, I will be on Zoom from 2:30 to 3:30 on Tuesday. So you can come stop by, ask any questions you have, and I would be happy to talk you through them. I hope this was helpful. We're so excited. 11 days, guys. Okay, also, last thing, Wednesday is when you are doing your complete dry run walkthrough. That's what you're doing on Wednesday. And actually, let's just go ahead and look at a screen on this upcoming week plan. So today or tomorrow, remember, you're doing the demo on my app and you're doing this prep. Wednesday, you're going to actually write and submit a practice DBQ. You're going to practice this in the same way you take the exam. So if you want to handwrite, you're going to handwrite.
I didn't get that. Could you try?
If you want to type, you're going to type, and you're going to set a timer on your phone and do this in 45 minutes, then use the last 5 minutes to submit. And then Friday, we're not actually planning to Zoom. You're just going to study on your own, because remember, if you don't know your content, you can't write a TBQ. Content is actually king. So these are the options for what you can work on for your content. In 5 Steps to a 5, the study book that we checked out, you can work on anything that you think you need the most work. You could also do that in the Blue Book if you don't have that book. I would focus on these time periods first: Manifest Destiny, Antebellum, Industrialization, Progressive 20s, and World War II. And then if you have more time, go back to hit the Great Depression and the earliest colonial period. But you want to focus on whatever you feel like you need the most work on. You can study content, or you can do a couple of your own DBQ walkthroughs, with the little DBQ guide and the timeline, and kind of get yourself comfortable with that. So our next full Zoom is going to be next Monday at 2:30. Looking forward to seeing you guys then. And again, if you have questions, I will see you on the Zoom tomorrow from 2:30 to 3:30. Love you guys. Bye.